I'm Chance Dorland, and this is In-Depth, an interview program from ExpressNews.com with in-depth reporting and other resources for stories affecting San Antonio and Bexar County. San Antonio Express News immigration reporter Silvia Foster-Frau has been following the community of Sutherland Springs for the past year, following her initial reporting after news broke that an armed gunman had attacked the First Baptist Church. She's been a frequent guest here on the podcast and joins me now again to discuss the recent updates she's written on the community as it continues to heal nearly 1 year after the deadliest shooting in Texas history. So, Silvia, of course, great to have you back here on the podcast. Let's start with the basics. Let's just give a general review of how you became involved in this story and, of course, what happened in Sutherland Springs nearly 1 year ago.
Hi, Chance. Yeah, thanks for having me. So, about 1 year ago on November 5th is when I was filling in for a colleague, and I got the call that there was an active shooter in Sutherland Springs from my editor. And I raced down there along with a team of other Express News reporters. And as I was going down, I was trying to find out more, how bad was it? And then by the time I got down there, we all knew it was bad. And as reports came through, we found out that it would become the deadliest mass shooting in Texas. It's also the deadliest one to happen in a place of worship across the United States. 26 people were killed. And basically what we discovered had happened was the gunman, a man named Devin Kelly, who was the husband of one of the church members, had come into the church during their Sunday services in this small church, and opened fired. And there was really very little escape for them. People jumped and hid under the pews, but in the end, 26 worshipers were killed, 20 were wounded, and a lot of these parishioners were family members and close friends. Sutherland Springs is a small community. It's an unincorporated territory, but the town itself is a one stoplight town, and everyone is, the church is the unifier there. So it was, it really shattered that community. And me and Lisa Krantz, our amazing photographer here, have been embedded in the community pretty much for this entire year, going to a wedding, going to baby shower, going to community events and potlucks and barbecues, and pretty much just trying to get to know the community better, who they are as a people, as a culture, but also tracing their healing and how they have grappled with this kind of grief. And now here we are. On Sunday will be the 1 year anniversary of the shooting. And so emotions right now are especially high, I think, as reminders keep popping up that by this November 5th, it will have been exactly 1 year. And something that one of the congregants told me, it was actually the pastor's wife, Sherry, that I've heard her repeat before, is that it marks the end of first. And that this year has been a year where it's the first time without this person. It's the first Thanksgiving without my daughter. It's the first Christmas without my wife. And once 1 year is over, then it's no longer the first without them. Then it becomes the second and the third and the countless other years to follow.
So as you mentioned, Silvia, obviously November 5th of this year, it's the first. It's going to be quite a memorable and of course, to be honest, a sad day, an important day, however, also for the community and the members of the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs. So tell me what's been taking place there over the past few weeks leading up to this unfortunate anniversary.
Well, we had last night the Fall Fest, which was the last event that the church had before the shooting last year. And it was really, I went down there last night, and it was really beautiful. Everyone was happy and in a good mood, and there was security. Now there's a team of congregants that kind of volunteer to be security, and they're armed, and they have kind of either Bluetooth or walkie-talkie, some way of communicating between them. And but that said, like, everyone was dressed up and involved in participating. There were games, there was candy, And everyone, I think, was just really having a good time together and remembering kind of the great things about their community. Michelle Shields, one of the congregants there, she dressed in costume as her mother, who had passed away last year from the shooting. And she said it helped her to be connected with her because her mother would have been one of the people that was leading that event and was organizing it. So that's been another aspect of their recovery is a lot of the people who they lost, they were in charge of organizing these events for the church. They were really involved. And so these other congregants have had to come and pick up the slack and fill in those gaps. And that's been a process in and of itself. And then now I think they're starting to gear up and get ready for this Sunday, which will begin with services pretty much as usual, but will also later involve prayers and recognition for the 1 year. And we'll have some speakers. I think Governor Greg Abbott's coming down here and some other local representatives as well, I think, as representatives from the North American Mission Board. So it's going to be a big day. They're planning to have a big picnic. It's going to last all day on Sunday. And then on Monday, which is actually November 5th, they're having a smaller private meeting to commemorate the people that were lost. And that'll be a smaller group of congregants there that night.
One thing that's changed a lot in the last year is the First Baptist Church itself. Tell me about how that has changed.
Yeah, so there's the building itself, and then there's the people in it. So the building, the place, the sanctuary where the shooting occurred has been turned into a memorial. It's all white and pristine, and there are chairs where the victims usually sat. There's chairs in their place with roses and their names on them. And then next to that is a temporary building. But then next to both of those is this new church that's being built. It was $3 million church donated. And it's going to seat 250 people. And it looks huge. I mean, you can see the construction when you're driving down the highway as you approach the church. And I think that's something that they're looking forward to. Sherry Pomeroy, she really does a lot of the cooking for the church, and she was like raving about how big and great the plans for the kitchen look and how much extra space is there. And Frank Pomeroy calls it the light on the hill, that it's just going to be this beacon that shows everyone that they're strong and they've overcome it. And like, look at now, they have this beautiful, glorious church. And the only thing he mentioned to me that he was concerned about was the high ceilings and how is he going to fix the light bulbs. And so, I think they are looking forward to that, and they see that as one of the good things or silver linings, I guess, that has come of this tragedy. And the congregation itself has doubled. There are more people attending the church, I think, just as support and solidarity for what happened there. And there's also members that usually hadn't been that regular that now go all the time, and they participate. They go all in now. They participate even stronger. There was a Pirate Day themed service a few weeks ago, and like everyone dressed up, like the entire congregation either had like a hook or an eye patch, or everyone was so involved, and it's just so beautiful to see how much their community and their sense of engagement has helped them heal.
Silvia, you already mentioned a few of these stories, but I'd love to hear more about how those who survived are continuing to cope with the injuries they sustained, as well as those who lost friends and as you've mentioned, people who lost family members.
I think there's good days and bad days. Like there are days when they talk about how hard it is to get out of bed, and the idea that, their children or their spouse isn't going to be there when they wake up. And those are hard to hear about. And in that way, 1 year really isn't a long time when you consider that some of these people, lost spouses of 34 years, for example, or children that they raised. It's just, in that way, I think it can still be really hard for a lot of these congregants, especially when it's usually, for so many of them, it's not just their one family member, it's also like their friends and their community that was literally, half of them were killed. Like, imagine having your inner circle and then half of that inner circle just being gone. I mean, that kind of life altering change. Wow. I don't, that's gonna be with them forever. But on the other hand, you just really see the beauty of what church has done and can do for people, because it's been this unifying force, and it's been where they can go for spiritual strength. They're very strong believers in God in this community. And so for them, knowing that there is this being watching over them and taking care of them and rooting for them means a lot. And then on top of that, having this group of people who are going through what you've been through, and they know who you've lost, and they're there supporting you and accepting you, and okay if you cry, and it's okay if you laugh, and it's okay if you're angry someday, because like, we know when we get it and we're here for you. Like, that kind of support and strength has just been amazing to see. And you see people who you would think could not experience joy and laughter, move on with their lives. It's a real testament to their strength and how they've managed to use good and positivity as a way to move forward, and just togetherness. And that's been really powerful. Me, as a witness, it's been really powerful to see the kind of resilience that they've been able to bring forth to get through this. It's something everyone could learn from.
Along the same lines, those who survived and now have injuries, or those who have survived loved ones, friends that they've lost. In the past, you've reported on some struggles that the survivors and the church have gone through when it comes to the amount of money that's been donated and where that money goes, and the transparency of that process. Are there any updates along those lines?
That part seems to have simmered down, at least from my perspective. I haven't heard or seen any of the controversy regarding how that those need-based donations are being distributed. So just to remind listeners, there were a few congregants who felt like they weren't getting their fair share of distributions because money from across the world started pouring into this small church. And so they had to quickly figure out, how to streamline these donations from GoFundMe's, from mailed-in donations, from the PayPal that they had set up that now suddenly had contributions, not just from their, small community, but from people all over the United States. And then there were the gifts and the letters, and some were directly addressed for victims. Others were addressed for other aspects. Others didn't give any indication of how to use the money. And so they had some trouble in the beginning, I think, getting everyone on board with their method for distribution. And their questions were raised, and especially on social media, like there was a Facebook page that had to get frozen, and it was upsetting to everyone involved. I think on both sides, people were just upset. And I'm happy to say I haven't heard of that being an issue since then. I think it boiled over. I think they were able to talk, and as far as that's concerned, hasn't come up. I haven't seen anything on social media. I haven't talked to anyone who's mentioned that they were upset about recent developments. So I think everyone is happy for that, because unity has really been what helped this church and gotten through them. And so any kind of division felt like a setback for a lot of these congregants.
And then finally, Silvia, before we say goodbye, I just want to give you a few moments for final thoughts. As we've been discussing, you have been really present in the community, even now, nearly 1 year later, and I assume that's going to continue. So final thoughts before we say goodbye.
I guess I just wish that everyone could see this community and see the way that they've gotten through this in such a positive and healing way. they've really relied on each other and relied on their faith and encouraged each other to be stronger and to channel positivity, and are really big proponents of acceptance of different stages of grief, of different stages of healing. And to me, it's just been really amazing to see how they can still be happy and have so much joy even after they get through this. And one of the congregants told me, it was Jenny Holcomb, and she lost her 1-year-old daughter and her husband. And she said, now I know that if I could get through that, I can get through anything. Like, I am strong. And so I want to use this strength to try to help other people or see what I can do with this, because, and that just really struck me, because it's true. Like, if she can go through something like that and still be happy and still, move on and give back to the world. She's still volunteering at the church. She started working part-time at this nonprofit. Like, if she can still contribute and give back even after the world took so much from her, it's like, what can't she do? And it reminds you of like just the strength that people can have in the face of such tragedy. And I think it could help a lot of people who are going through similar pain and similar grief to see them and see, you can get out of it, you can pull through, and like, this is how they did it, and it was through positivity, and it was through helping each other and being accepting of each other. And it's just like, it's really beautiful. And so if my stories can convey like an ounce of all of that, like, I'll be happy, but yeah, I guess I'm just, in awe of how resilient they've been, and also how open to me and Lisa they've been to telling their story of their resiliency. And I'm just so grateful for that kind of insight that I would have personally never have seen or had insight to in my life if it wasn't for being with this community for a year.
And thank you to San Antonio Express News immigration reporter Silvia Foster-Frau for joining me for today's episode of the In-Depth Podcast, an interview program from expressnews.com. For the San Antonio Express News, I'm Chance Dorland.